to the latest episode of the Kansas Moonshot Podcast, where we are shining the spotlight on amazing things happening in schools across the state. Whether you're one of the Mercury, Gemini, or Apollo schools launching some amazing redesign plans, or a teacher just trying to do something a little different, I want to share your story. The goal is to celebrate the awesomeness all around us. In this episode, I had the opportunity to interview Steven Kimmi, principal, and Gayathri Ramkumar, math teacher at Tescott schools. They share their experiences with Summit Learning. Check it out. Thank you very much for being on the show. If you guys could just start off by introducing yourselves and what school you're from.
Yeah, my name is Steven Kimmi, and I'm the principal here at Tescott Schools, which is a combined Tescott grade school, junior high, and high school.
Okay, my name is Gayathri Ramkumar. I teach math 7 through 12 at Tescott.
We are a small 1A school. We've got about 170 students pre-K through 12 that we serve, about 70% free and reduced lunch rate. And we are part of a district that has two pre-K through 12 facilities, but we're about 18 miles apart.
Wow. And that's really a group that we haven't gotten onto the podcast before. But I know there are a lot of districts out there that are in similar structure. So this will be great to hear. Where are you guys at in the redesign process?
So we jumped on and we're part of the Mercury redesign group last year, and that means we are currently in our launch year at this point.
Excellent. And you guys are using the Summit Learning platform, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you on the show to share your experiences. I know a lot of schools have been waiting for you brave souls who are pioneering the way for the rest of us. I'd love to hear just kind of your experiences with it. First of all, what led you to choosing the Summit Learning platform?
So through the redesign process, we identified 4 areas in which we wanted to improve. Those being personalized learning, project-based learning, social emotional learning, and family and community engagement. When we looked at Summit Learning and what it had to offer, we felt as though it actually checked 3 of those boxes. With offering some personalized learning opportunities, including project-based learning for each of the core areas, as well as an emphasis on social emotional development with the mentoring program that you do along with the curriculums that they offer.
And what grade levels are you using it with right now?
We are currently using 4th grade through 10th grade.
Excellent. And so what have your experiences been? What have been some of the highlights, some of the things that have gone really well with the Summit platform?
And I will pass this off to Gayathri.
From math point of view, I think I really like Summit because it has a good balance of conceptual understanding in math and the procedural fluency. I also enjoy the mentoring part of the Summit learning platform. I get to meet with 7 through 12 kids, and I have 10 mentees, and each secondary teacher gets about 10 mentees. That is done through the Summit platform as well.
So in their math class, what does a typical day look like for those kids?
We start with a math unit is a concept unit. It has 3 parts to it: a concept unit, and there is the focus area part, and the other part is a portfolio problem. So the concept unit is heavily focused on understanding the concepts. So the teacher teaches the lesson, students participate in the learning activities. Sometimes it's digital, or sometimes it's just hands-on activities. And the focus areas part is where the students get to practice the procedural skills involved in the concept. And the portfolio problems are more like choice-based problems. Students get to choose what they want to work on and who to work with. And that comes 2 times during the unit. So there is a specific day allotted for that particular portfolio problem day. And that's how the math concept unit is. And it's a combination mix of teacher teaching the unit and students participating in the activities.
And are you still having the kids for like a 45-minute block, or is it is it like different hours for this, or how does that work? Like, do they?
Our school has a block schedule, so all 7 through 12.
Yep, 90-minute blocks every other day. And we haven't had to adjust the schedule at the high school level. At the grade school level, we did have to kind of adjust a little bit. And that's just kind of a result of being in a small school and trying to offer as many activities as we can and the impact that has on the academic time within the classroom.
And then do you see these, so they're working on these projects, and then do they build upon each other? Like, so when they're working on 7th grade, does that build in 8th grade or 9th grade? Or I know you guys aren't to that step yet, seeing how they connect together, but.
So that's a little different than what Gayathri was talking about, because in math, it's concept units. And the other other three subject areas of science, social studies, and English, that's where the projects come in. And I don't know that I would say that they necessarily build upon one another. Specifically, what I would say is for each one, they're graded on a rubric which identifies cognitive skills. And some projects, they will repeat those same cognitive skills multiple times throughout the year. And so in that way, they do kind of build upon each other. For example, we had a teacher who was out on maternity leave at the beginning of this school year. So I actually taught our 8th grade history class just so we wouldn't have to try to figure out how to train our sub for about a month worth of work. And the first project they had there in 8th grade history was to identify a myth in American history, such as Paul Revere's ride, and whether he deserves as much credit as he has been given in folklore for what he did. And they had to create a multimedia presentation and practice an argument and delivering that in front of a group and providing evidence. That was a project that we did at the beginning of the year, and they're currently wrapping up the Constitutional Convention, where again they're practicing argument and determining, which direction that we should go with the Constitution.
So I love that you jumped in and you were teaching a class. That's amazing to hear, because you don't always hear administrators jumping in like that. That's fantastic. So what are some things that things you had to work through, or some things that maybe you guys struggled with as you guys are figuring out how to implement this summit learning?
It's not an easy transition. And I keep asking myself why, because we've been pretty fortunate here in our district with the support that we've gotten with our families, because there's some other districts in the state that have transitioned to Summit and not had quite as much support from their families. I think one of the struggles is no school has ever really adopted a curriculum that is all encompassing of the 4 core subject areas. So, and no school has ever standardized the way that they are approaching teaching in a way like this either, in so many subject areas. And that's difficult. Can be difficult for students, especially if they're adverse to it to begin with. And as you and all of us know, change is hard. Whether we want that change or not, it's difficult. And making sure that we've taken the time to allow ourselves to make adjustments and to continue to grow and figure out all the nooks and crannies that we need to, so that we can continue to be successful.
And so as you guys have been figuring these things out, are there any changes you're going to be making next year, or do you think you've got a pretty good solid foundation right now?
So one of the things I would say specifically is this idea of self-directed learning time. And that is what they refer to when kids are able to engage in the more personalized learning part. So Ms. Ramkumar spoke about the focus areas. 4 focus areas, that is predominantly done through self-directed learning time. The platform that Summit has created offers the students a lot of resources that they can go to help fill in any gaps of knowledge that they haven't gotten from any general classroom instruction. But that self-directed learning time is very easily synonymous with just regular study hall. And in general, study hall hasn't been very rigorous, no matter where or when or any place that I've been. And this idea of self-directed learning, it is a much more rigorous type of idea of how we're going to spend that time. And that's been a shift for the students in understanding that you really can't waste this time. But it's also been a shift for staff members of how do we behave differently so that we can make sure that students are making the most of this time, but that they're being the ones that are still self-directing their own learning, that we're not overstepping our bounds. And as we look forward to next year, that's something we still see at this point in the year. We still have kids who aren't making the most of their time, and we're just still trying to problem solve and figure out how can we approach our position so that we can encourage kids, but not make it go back to the way it's always been, where we're forcing kids to do this or that or the other.
Now, is that a separate time during the day that they're working on that, or is that in the regular class, the block for that class?
I'm going to let Gayathri answer
that. It's also during the classroom time, and all the mentees meet with their mentors. The first 30 minutes, it's more like a homeroom.
Okay.
And that is also a self-directed learning time for the kids to be working on their schoolwork. And also each subject teacher gives a specific self-directed learning time for their subject. And that depends on the subject. For math, the students get the concepts from the teacher during the concept unit. So they do not spend a whole lot of time during the self-directed learning time to be working on their focus areas. But science and social studies and English work a little differently because they are working on their projects, and that also requires a lot of self-directed learning from there.
So, and I'll jump in. First of all, when we say focus area, that's Summit language, and I sometimes get frustrated when everybody speaks in these certain languages. Essentially, it's like a quiz or a test that somebody would normally give. So That's what we're talking about. We provide some classroom instruction, and then for anybody who needs a little additional assistance, there's resources built within the platform to help them be prepared to pass the quiz or the test. And it's a 10-question quiz or test. It's mastery based, so as long as they get at least an 80%, it's considered passed. They don't receive a B for getting an 80%. They just receive that they passed it, and they can move forward. And Gayathri has done a really good job in math, and this is one of the high points I would say for Summit, is it provides a lot of data for you as an administrator, for teachers to be able to truly understand where the level of knowledge and understanding and ability is within your classroom. So Gayathri's done a great job of being able to use that data to determine exactly how much time she needs to provide for students to be able to pass their focus areas. And so in math, it's very different than in some other classrooms. And part of that is a little bit of the way it's taught by concept unit, but part of it is also because of the hard work Gayathri's done in examining that data on a routine basis and using that to inform her instruction.
And how much flexibility is there as far as teacher-created content versus the platform? Are there ways to bring in additional resources, or is it pretty? Does it stick pretty close to the Summit platform or lessons?
It's very flexible. You can add in resources if you think you have success with a project that you have done before and you want to add it on, or even introduce a lesson that you have had success with before and you want to make it part of the unit. There is places in the platform that you can do that. And also you can also remove the lessons that you think is not going to work for your students, or replace it with another activity. There is a lot of flexibility in the concept unit part.
And I would say also in the projects in the other area, you can change the order of them. You can remove activities. You can add things in. Now, that being said, adding things in, it's not the easiest thing to do. You have to jump through some of the steps from their platform, but it is relatively user friendly, so it's not super difficult for someone to be able to accomplish.
So it sounds like there might have been a little bit of a learning curve with the Summit platform, but most teachers were able to dive in and get it figured out. Did they offer, I know they offer a training, is that right?
So this summer, our staff who were going to be using the platform received a week-long training. And for the most part, the vast majority of that expense was on Summit. The district covered the cost of travel and just paying teachers for their time. But as far as hotel room and food, Summit covered all the cost of that. So they attended that 1 week training, and then we came back, and pretty much for the first semester, we would meet just about every Wednesday. I usually say like 3 Wednesdays a month. And during that time, we just kind of went and reviewed on how to do certain things and new things we would figure out how to do on our own. And we would just kind of share that out with everybody here that was using it.
And what advice would you have for schools that do decide to launch this next year? I haven't reached out to Summit Learning yet to find out when their window closes for next year, but if there is a school out there who is diving into Summit, what advice would you have for them?
My biggest piece of advice is as soon as you start the process, you want to talk to them about how you need access to the curriculum as soon as possible. Unfortunately, when we jumped on board, we didn't get access, and this is kind of the way they run their business. We didn't get access to the curriculum until we showed up to the week-long training. And the problem therein lies that it's the middle of summer, and we're all on break, and we're already taking our time out of our break so that we can go to this training. So it's not really fair to ask staff to do a lot of their homework when they're on their big, long, extended break. So if I were going to talk to somebody who was interested in applying, it would be to ask and I don't know, demand or just say, I need this curriculum as soon as possible because I have to get it into the hands of my teachers so that we're not scrambling at the beginning of the year to try to figure out everything. We can do a little bit of work ahead of time so we have a little background knowledge to work with.
Yeah, learning a whole new system would be a little bit of a challenge over the summer.
You'd asked this question. I didn't chime in yet, but you'd said like one of the great things that you've seen, and we've seen here and there. We've seen some fun things. We were able to offer an incentive day where any student who was passing all of their classes and had no missing assignments did not have to come on the last day of school before Christmas break.
Ooh.
We had about 50% of our students qualify.
Wow.
For that. Now, that was only for grades 7 through 12. We didn't do that for grades. So we had about 50 kids who qualified. And a great thing in relation to math is, I crossed paths with one young lady, and she told me, Mr. Kimmi, I could leave right now. I've done everything I need to do. All my assignments are turned in and my grades are up, but I'm going to go down to math class and see if I can retake a test so I can raise my grade. And this is my third year as principal. That's just not something I'm used to hearing. Coming into this school, academic excellence wasn't one of our top priorities. And I can see a shift now where we're getting closer to being geared towards academic excellence than we have been in the past. In fact, at the end of first semester, we did a grade distribution where we compared first semesters from the last several years. And while we didn't necessarily see a huge increase in A's or B's, we saw a huge decrease in the numbers of D's and F's. It was 40 my first year, 20 my second, and this semester it was 11.
Wow.
Down to 11 D's and F's, and the majority of those were D's and not F's.
Yeah.
And that's just a big shift from what I had experienced the first couple of years here. And unfortunately, we can't necessarily say it's completely related to Summit because we're trying to do a lot of things differently.
Yeah.
I at least have to think that it played a part.
That sounds great. If there was a school who they're trying Summit out, or they had some questions, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you guys?
So you can reach out to us via email through our school district. You'll find our email addresses, which is just usd240.org. You can also find me on Twitter. My handle there is @Principal Kimmi. You could reach out to me through that. Miss Ramkumar's got a fun, exciting last name, so it would be best to find her email address as a way to reach out to her. And I don't think you're on Twitter, are you?
No.
She's not tweeting with us.
Not tweeting. That's all right. Well, thank you very much for your time and for sharing. I know there are a lot of people who have been waiting to hear kind of the updates on how Summit Learning is going. So they'll really appreciate being able to hear this.
Real quick, if you go to demo.summitlearning.org and you can put in your email address and they will you can see this curriculum there and kind of you as a student. Also, you can look at the page like a student would look at it.
Yeah, they do have a demo site where you don't even have to enter a real email address as long as it just has the @ and a dot something at the end. So that way you don't have to worry about them getting access to anything. You can log in. You can see it from a teacher's point of view. You can see it from a student's point of view. They also do have the parent login, but the parent login is also the same as the student view.
Well, that is really great advice because I know there are a lot of people who want to check that out. So, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on.
That wraps up this episode of the podcast. Now, I'm thinking about in the near future doing a listener question episode. What are some questions you have about school redesign? What would you like to know more about? What areas are you curious about schools implementing? If you have a question about school redesign, you can email me at teachlikeaninja@gmail.com and let me know what you would like for me to find out for you. Or follow me on Twitter and ask me on Twitter at teachlikeaninja. For more information about this episode, check out my website, mrstockrocks.com. If you know someone doing something awesome in their classroom, let me know about it. I'd love to have them on the show. You can email me at teachlikeaninja@gmail.com or follow me on Twitter at teachlikeaninja. I've been your host, Josh Stock, 6th grade language arts teacher and self-proclaimed awesomeness expert. Until next time, book it forward and be awesome.